The life of a medieval blacksmith. A gentle story, told in firelight and silence. Good evening. Let the day soften now. Let your shoulders fall. If your eyes are heavy, your breath is slow, and your body feels still, then you're exactly where you need to be. Tonight, I'll tell you a quiet story. Not one of dragons or war or kings, but of a man who rises before the world wakes. A blacksmith. He lives in a small village where the morning begins with mist, and the fire in his forge breathes like a sleeping animal. This is a story of rhythm, of warmth, of the kind of peace that comes not from rest, but from honest work, done well. There is no need to follow every word, no need to think, just listen. Let the rhythm carry you. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and drift gently into a day that begins. Before the smoke rises. Before the smoke rises. You wake before the first cockcrow. Long before the light has touched the rooftops of the village. The air's thick with dew, and your hands, already stained with soot from years past, flex with a memory of labor before they even meet the day. Your bed is simple, a wool-stuffed sack atop a wooden frame, but it holds the warmth of your tired bones. When you sit up, you feel the coolness of the forge nearby, still dormant, its coals cold, its breath quiet. The forge sleeps, but not for long. You move slowly, deliberately. There is no rush in your morning. The rhythm of your life does not come from bells or shouts, but from the steady, patient demands of iron. You wash your face with cold water from a clay basin, the chill waking your mind more than your eyes. Outside, the ground is still dark with night, and mist hovers above the thatched roofs. You live beside your forge, as most blacksmiths do. It is not a grand workshop, but it is solid timbers dark with age, the hearth built from river stones hauled and placed by your father's hands decades ago. When you step into the forge, the scent greets you like a long-lost friend. Smoke, ash, steel, and leather. A scent layered in memory. Your first act is silent. You kneel before the hearth and begin clearing the old ash, scooping it with care into a bucket, spreading it later in the garden, where the potassium-rich powder helps feed the beans. You do this every morning, without question. The forge must begin clean, or it begins wrongly. You lift the lid of the coal bin. Inside, chunks of blackened wood, charcoal made from oak, burnt slowly in the nearby woods by men whose whole craft is fire without flame. This is your fuel. You pour a small mound into the fire pot, arranging it like a small altar. This is not mere routine. This is a rite. The bellows sit beside the hearth, their leather folds stiff from the night's chill. You oil the hinges, stretch the folds, and place the nozzle carefully into its slot. This tool, older than you, was built by a man now buried behind the chapel. You whisper a short phrase, not a prayer exactly, but something close to it. You strike the flint. Once, twice. A spark. Then, the softest glow. You coax it gently, pressing air into the coal with a few steady pumps of the bellows. The forge awakens, not suddenly, not with violence, but with a slow, deep breath. Orange gives way to red to white. Heat rises like dawn. You do not smile. You simply nod. This is the forge as it should be. Now the tools, hanging in their familiar places, tongs in 3 sizes, their jaws shaped for flat blades, curved hinges, and rounded hooks. Hammers of differing weights, short-handled for detail, long-handled for weight. Your apron is stiff with old oil and soot. You tie it over your tunic, fingers moving with the ease of habit. The anvil waits at the center. It is scarred but proud. Its surface glints faintly in the firelight, polished not by cloth, but by years of contact. Metal striking metal, day after day. Its horn curves like a tusk, its edges sharp. You run your palm across it once. It feels cool now, but soon it will ring with purpose. You begin the first work. A simple repair. A bent chisel, brought yesterday by the cooper. He needs it by tomorrow. You heat it gently, correcting its edge, checking its temper. Nothing fancy. But you know, if you err by a single degree of heat, the blade will chip. A bad edge means split barrels. A split barrel means spoiled ale. Spoiled ale means no coin. Your work is invisible to many, but everything depends on it. By the time the sky turns pale gray, the forge glows steadily. The tools are warm to the touch, and the soot has begun to gather on your arms, darkening the skin in uneven patches. The village is just now stirring. A rooster calls. A cart creaks down the lane. But your day is already in motion, not with urgency, but with certainty. And above all this, the smell of iron and ash, the sound of the bellows, the whisper of flame. There is the quiet truth known by all who work the forge. You do not shape metal with strength alone. You shape it with rhythm, with repetition, with patience. And the day is only beginning. Coal, bellows, and earth's iron. The morning light stretches longer now, slipping through the cracks in the wooden shutters and spilling gently across the stone floor. You lift a fresh piece of iron from its resting place near the forge, cool, dull gray, veined faintly with dark striations. It is not more. It is bloom iron, rough, irregular, spongy in appearance, forged elsewhere in a smelting pit and bought at the last market. You remember the man who brought it. A charcoal burner's cousin, all grime and nervous eyes. He spoke little, but his cart bore iron blooms wrapped in cloth, still warm from their slow release from slag. This metal is not pure. It must be hammered, folded, and refined. But it is real, and it is yours. You place the bloom near the fire to warm it slowly. Too fast, and it cracks. Too cold, and it resists the hammer. Like bread dough or butter on a spring morning, iron has its moods. You have learned to read them, not in books, but in sound, in color, in feel. Beside the fire, the bellows breathe with a steady rhythm, each compression feeding the coals. You work the treadle with your foot, freeing your hands for other tasks. The air rushes through the nozzle, low and hissing, like a serpent waking from slumber. The flames rise higher in response, licking the underside of the crucible, dancing in hues of orange and white. The forge grows louder, but not disruptively. The sound is constant, almost soothing. You've learned to speak with fire, not with words, but with attention. When to feed it, when to let it rest, when to coax it back from the edge of dying. Your coal is not mined, not stone black like that found deeper in the earth. You use charcoal made by men who stack and burn wood under carefully banked dirt mounds in the forest outside the village. They tend these mounds for days, smoke puffing slowly from small holes until the wood inside turns carbon-rich and light. Charcoal is fragile, but it burns hot and clean, perfect for your purpose. Without it, your forge would be smoke-choked, your iron brittle. You keep a pile of it near the rear wall, carefully covered to stay dry. Wet charcoal spits. And a forge that spits back is a dangerous one. Today's work will begin with an order. Hinges for the Reeves' new barn. They need to bear weight, resist rust, and look fine enough for visitors. You've drawn the shape already. Broad at the top, curling slightly at the end, punched with even holes for wooden pegs. The design is not complex, but execution matters. A poor hinge means a squeaking gate. A squeaking gate means a wakeful steward. A wakeful steward, no peace for anyone. You heat the bar end first. As it glows, you lift it with long tongs and lay it across the anvil. Your hammer arcs once, then again. Each strike falls with practiced precision, flattening, spreading, curling. The curl is decorative, but also functional, dispersing tension across the wood. You shape it slowly, with small taps first, then heavier ones. When the shape nears perfection, you quench the metal in a wooden tub filled with cool water, watching steam rise like incense. You wipe your brow with the edge of your sleeve. Already the sweat begins to form, not heavy but constant. The forge does not forgive idleness. Even in winter, it swaddles you in warmth like a second skin. Behind you, tools rest on their racks. Each one speaks of time. You forged many of them yourself. Others were inherited. One small hammer still bears your father's initials, carved crudely near the hilt. You use it only for fine work now, edges, rivets, fittings, not because it is weak, but because it deserves precision. At the far end of the workshop, a stone wheel waits. You'll use it later for sharpening, a broad, slow-turning grindstone driven by a foot pedal. The stone sings softly when touched by metal. Its rhythm is different from the hammer's, a whisper rather than a drumbeat. As you place the first hinge aside to cool fully, you glance outside. The sky is brightened. The street begins to stir. A child chases a chicken past the trough. A cart rumbles by, pulled by a donkey with one limp ear. The day grows outward. But here in the forge, the world is smaller, defined by iron, fire, and form. The bloom is nearly ready now. You lift it from the coals and set it on the anvil. It resists, dense and reluctant. You strike it firmly over and over, folding it onto itself, pressing out slag and impurities with each hammerfall. The sound changes as you work, from a dull thud to a brighter ring. You listen closely. That sound tells you everything. The iron is bonding, becoming whole. You know this. Nothing strong is born in a single piece. It must be shaped again and again, under pressure, under flame, under time. And so it is with iron, and perhaps with yourself. Tools that speak in sparks. You lay the cooling iron aside, placing it gently on a smooth oak board beside the hearth. It clicks softly as it touches the wood, a sound as familiar to you as a child's breath. The heat lingers on its surface, radiating faint warmth into the morning air. You leave it to rest. Iron, too, needs time to breathe between changes. Now you turn to your tools. They hang neatly on the far wall of the forge, arranged not by size or material, but by memory. You reach first for the hammer with the curved neck, a shaping hammer. Its head is blackened and slightly pitted, worn smooth where your hand grips the shaft. You remember forging it yourself in your second year as apprentice, guided by your master's rough voice. Not too long, not too heavy. The tool should fit you, not the other way around. Next to it hangs a flatter, a broad-faced hammer, used for smoothing heated metal. Its handle is oak, darkened with oil, wrapped in a thin strip of leather to cushion your grip. You rarely use it now, except when finishing hinges or doors for the reeve, who insists on smooth metal that won't snag a noblewoman's dress. Tongs come next. You have over a dozen pairs, each one unique, some with long, slender arms for holding knife blades. Others are short and stubby, perfect for clamps and rivets. Their jaws are notched, dented, and warped by years of grip and release. Yet none are discarded. A blacksmith does not part with tools lightly. There is the fuller, used to create grooves along swords or flatten iron rods. The punch for holes. The chisel for cuts. The swage block, a heavy chunk of iron set with impressions for shaping rounded objects, rests near the floor, scarred and noble like a sleeping hound. You run a cloth across them, not to polish, but to listen. Each tool has its own weight, its own voice. You feel it not only in your hand, but in your bones. There is a rhythm to working with tools that cannot be taught by words. It is the rhythm of the forge, the pulse of the anvil, the tempo of muscle, breath, and time. The anvil itself is perhaps your oldest companion. It came to you from your father, and to him from his uncle. It is chipped in places. It is horn blunted from decades of curved metal, bent into hooks and braces. Yet its core is strong. It still sings when struck right. It still answers true. You do not name it, as some smiths do, but in your heart it holds a presence beyond words. Beneath the bench, in a wooden chest, you keep the finer tools, files of varying grit, a leather strop, small hammers for detail work, awls and scrapers for finishing touches, a knife with a bone handle, used only for trimming cooled edges. These are your quiet tools, not for the heavy ringing of day work, but for the finishing strokes done in the hush of evening. You remember your first blade, an awkward knife with a crooked tip. It took 3 days to forge, and still it wouldn't hold an edge. But you kept it. It's still here, hidden beneath a pile of rags in a corner drawer. Not because it's useful, but because it reminds you of the beginning. The weight of failure is lighter when carried with honesty. Not far from the hearth sits the bellows, now warm and breathing steadily. The leather folds creak faintly, stretching and releasing. You repaired it last winter, stitching the seams with waxed cord, replacing the handle with a smoother grip carved from ash. Tools require care as much as any horse or cloak. Neglect them, and they betray you. Now and then, you take time to oil the hinges, sharpen the blades, and tighten the handles. You do not rush these tasks. A well-kept tool is a song that always plays in tune. Outside, you hear the caw of crows and the muffled thump of hooves on dirt. The village is truly waking now. Children call. A door slams. A woman laughs behind a shuttered window. But in your forge, the world is contained, small and certain. The tools are ready. The fire is fed. Your hands are steady. And as you place the hammer back into its notch, its familiar weight leaving your palm, you feel a soft hum in your chest, a quiet echo of all the metal you've shaped. The gates that now swing smoothly, the swords that lie across noble backs, the hinges that creak not at all. This is your cathedral, not built of stone and spire, but of fire, iron, and honest tools. And in it, you labor not for glory, but for something far sturdier, for usefulness, for rhythm, for the deep, ringing truth that even in silence, your tools remember you. The forge, at full breath, the fire has reached its voice. You can hear it now, not the hiss of damp charcoal, not the whisper of early embers, but the steady, hungry roar of a forge fully awake. It is not loud, not wild, just present, a deep-throated breath that fills the room without rushing it. The color of the coals has shifted, no longer red or orange, but white at the center, fringed by brilliant yellow and blue. The light flickers against the stone walls, turning the soot-blackened interior into something alive. Shadows dance across your tools. The heat presses against your cheeks like a firm hand. Not cruel, not soft, just constant. This is the moment you know. The forge is ready. You pump the bellows again, this time with calm confidence. Not to awaken, but to maintain. The nozzle hisses. The coals flare briefly. The temperature holds. Around you, the air is thick with warmth and purpose. Every inch of your forge, now, has a job. Every surface reflects the rhythm of heat and metal. You lift the bar of bloom iron from the side. It has rested long enough. You return it to the fire, letting it soak up heat like bread soaks broth. Not all at once, slowly, deeply. You rotate it with long tongs, watch the surface darken, then brighten, then glow. When it reaches a pale yellow, you know it's time. With practiced movement, you set the glowing bar on the anvil. The anvil hums beneath the weight. You raise your hammer, not the heavy one, but the medium weight cross-peen, and begin. One strike, then another, then another. The sound echoes in the forge. Not harshly, it rings with purpose, clean and measured, like the slow tolling of a chapel bell. Sparks fly with each blow, tiny flecks of starfire that arc through the air and vanish before they touch the floor. You draw the metal out, lengthening it into shape, folding, striking, turning, striking again. Each movement flows from the last. You do not need to think. Your body knows this dance. Your hands and the iron speak in a wordless tongue. The sweat on your brow begins to gather, not from labor alone, but from the living heat that fills the room. You taste it in the air, a mix of iron, smoke, and salt. It clings to your skin, your tunic, your breath. You return the bar to the fire when the glow fades. You wait. Then repeat. Heat. Hammer. Fold. Quench. Again and again. This is not a moment of drama. It is a moment of endurance. The kind of patient, steady work that shapes lives as surely as it shapes metal. You do not look for beauty yet. That will come later. First comes strength, structure, soundness. Now you switch to another project, a set of horseshoes for the Reeves' new draft horse. You reach for a thick iron bar, already shaped in outline. It has been resting since yesterday cut, but unshaped. You heat one end and begin forming the curve against the horn of the anvil. Your strokes are short, precise. The anvil sings with each one, sharper now, more refined. The curve takes shape slowly, then suddenly, almost before you notice it. You check the arc against a wooden model. Perfect. You punch 4 holes, 2 on each side, then back into the fire, the other end glowing now. A second shoe takes shape, then a third, a fourth. All the same, all different. Each one made not by guesswork, but by repetition, by rhythm. There is a comfort in this, a steadiness. The forge is hot, yes. The air thickens. But there is no confusion. No noise you do not understand. No task without clarity. The sun outside is rising now, though you hardly notice. Your forge gives its own light. The birdsong barely reaches through the thick walls. But occasionally, through the doorway, you catch a child's voice. A cart rolling by, the creak of a gate. You glance toward the doorway. Outside, the world moves in fits and starts. Inside, you move like a river. You pause to drink. Just a few sips from the jug of watered ale at your bench. Warm now, but refreshing all the same. You wipe your hands on your apron and return to the fire. You will not stop yet. Not until the bar is fully used. Not until the job is done. There are more sparks to fall, more shapes to summon from metal and heat. The forge has breath to spare, so do you. You draw the final piece from the fire, a small hook, barely longer than a finger. It is for the apothecary's lamp. A simple thing, but no less worthy of care. You flatten, curl, and cool it. The curl is delicate, almost decorative. You smile, not widely, just slightly as you hold it up to the light. It will do. You line the new pieces on the bench, horseshoes, a gate hook, a knife blank, and the beginnings of a new hinge. Warm, still, steaming faintly, but solid. And you feel it. Not pride exactly, but peace. The forge has spoken its morning words, and you have answered. Blades, hooves, and hinges. By mid-morning, the forge no longer belongs to you alone. The sound of metal on metal is joined by voices, low, polite, familiar. The first to arrive is a farmer. You recognize him by the tilt of his cap and the limp in his left foot. He nods once, respectfully, then lays a sack on your bench. Within, a broken hoe, its iron head cracked along the center, and a small sickle, dulled to a whisper. He does not speak right away. You do not need him to. You lift the hoe head gently, turning it in your hands. You can see the crack, thin but decisive. It will not survive another harvest. You nod and gesture to the bench. He waits. You begin the repair without pause. The hoe must be reforged. You heat it, fold in the new iron, and hammer it back into shape. Your hands know its form, shaped by 1,000 other tools like it. It's not about perfection, it's about strength, about trust. This hoe will meet stone and soil, root and rot. It must endure. The farmer watches without comment. He does not praise or question, only waits. When it's done, he places 2 coins on the bench, small thin silver and a wrapped bundle. Bread with a touch of lard inside, payment, honest and sufficient. You nod again. He smiles and walks off down the road, back to his field, back to his own quiet rhythm. Next comes the farrier's apprentice, younger, wiry, red-faced from running. He carries a pair of old horseshoes and a request. The Reeves draft horse kicked them loose again. Need 4 new ones by sundown. You know the horse, large, stubborn, and prone to stone bruises. You sigh softly. Heavy hooves, heavy metal. You begin work at once. As you shape the shoes, broad, strong, curved just right, you hear the clink of iron in the water trough outside. A knight's squire is washing a blade. Soon, the boy steps into the forge, the sword wrapped in wool cloth, its tip barely peeking out. He offers it to you with care. The blade is chipped. Not severely, but enough to nick flesh if drawn in haste. It needs attention. Sir Aldrich would like it repaired before the feast day, the boy says. His voice is respectful but rushed. He is not used to the calm of the forge. You study the sword, a long sword, perhaps 30 inches, with a fuller running nearly to the point. The edge is dull and the guard is loose. This blade has seen more drills than battles, but still, it deserves care. You set it aside for later, once the tools of the common folk are finished. A cartwright arrives next. He has a box of nails, handmade, square-shanked, that need to be reforged. His voice is booming, his laughter louder. He jokes with you, as always, about how your anvil rings louder than the church bell. You allow yourself a small smile. He trades you 2 smoked fish and a half-wheel of hard cheese. You accept, knowing he'll need 4 new hinge pins next week. You remind him gently. He nods. He'll be back. By noon, your bench is scattered with tasks. Hinges waiting for punch holes, a blade to sharpen, a plowshare to reface, and a hearth hook that's snapped under the weight of a heavy kettle. Each visitor brings their own story, though few of them tell it aloud. You see it in the wear of their boots, the grime under their nails, the way they shift weight from foot to foot. They come not just for iron, but for assurance that the work will be done. That which is broken can be made whole. Not all bring coins. Some bring eggs, some a pot of dried peas. One older woman, with kind eyes and a crooked back, brings nothing at all, but asks softly if you might mend a pair of old shears. You do not ask for payment. Her husband was a blacksmith once, before the cough took him. In these transactions, value is not always measured in silver. Reputation, too, is currency. And in this village, yours is sound. A priest stops by, his robe swept back behind dusty boots. He nods at you and murmurs a blessing under his breath. His request is simple. The latch on the vestry door sticks in the rain. Could you smooth it, perhaps, or fit a new hinge? You agree. He offers no coin but promises prayers. You nod. The hinge will be ready by week's end. And so it goes, one by one, quiet souls with simple needs. None of it is glamorous. There are no gilded swords, no shining suits of armor. But there is dignity in it. And necessity. Without these tools, the village phrase, its labor slows. It's a seasoned stumble. As the sun climbs higher, the forge grows hotter, and your apron grows heavier with soot. But your hands continue, gripping, shaping, cooling, again and again. And through it all, the forge breathes on, steady. Sure. As if it, too, listens to the footsteps and voices that pass through its door. By the time you hang the latest horseshoe on a nail to cool, the work table looks different. Fewer piles, more space. But always, something is waiting. And in the rhythm of these tasks, blade, hinge, shoe, latch, you find a kind of music, a song of quiet labor, of needs met, of lives mended not with glory, but with iron. The weight of payment. By early afternoon, the forge quiets. Not from lack of work, but from a need to pause. The air has grown heavy, fragrant with heat and smoke. Your shoulders ache with that slow, familiar pull. Less pain, more memory. The rhythm of your morning has spent itself, leaving only stillness and the soft ringing in your ears from a dozen hammer strikes. You step away from the anvil, brush ash from your tunic, and glance at what remains on the bench. 3 hinge pins. 1 unfinished blade, a loop for a lantern, all for later. For now, it's time to rest. You settle on the stone seat beneath the window, a spot worn smooth by years of lunches just like this. You untie your apron, wipe your brow, and open a small linen cloth brought from home. Inside, coarse bread, a wedge of goat cheese, and a few slices of salted pork. The bread is 2 days old, but filling. The cheese crumbles easily between your fingers. You chew slowly, listening to the forge crackle its last small sighs before going quiet. There is no feast, no fine wine, but the food is earned, and that makes it enough. Beside your meal sits a small pile of goods, a quiet record of the day's worth. 2 silver pennies from the farmer, a sack of oats from the cartwright, a string of dried herbs from the priest's cook, left discreetly beside the door, a half-wheel of cheese, a smoked fish, a promise from the baker's son for 3 loaves when the week turns. It is not wealth in the way nobles understand it, but it is life, and it is fair. Some days you are paid in coin, smooth and clipped. worn from a dozen hands before yours. Most days it is barter, things that feed, warm, or mend. A bolt of wool cloth, a hen a small jug of thick ale. These things cannot be stored in chests, but they carry you through the seasons. And in winter, when the cold creeps under every shutter, it is not silver you need, but firewood, grain, good boots, and the kindness of those who remember your work. You have no ledgers, no scales. You remember who paid, who owes, and who gives what they can. Some accounts are settled in time, others are forgiven. There is a kind of dignity in that trust between craftsman and neighbor. Sometimes a noble sends for you, rarely, but it happens. A broken blade, a cracked stirrup, a piece of armor bent from sparring. When they pay well, but they rarely return thanks. Their needs are sharp and short, their time quickly. And though their coin is heavier, it comes with no warmth. You find more satisfaction in the plow you fixed for the widow's son, in the latch you forged for the schoolhouse door, in the quiet nods of men who pass you in the lane and say nothing, because they do not need to, they know. Still, there are lean times, a poor harvest, a harsh winter, a war far away that draws the strong young men from the village and leaves the forge quiet. During these times, payment thins, work slows, you take what is offered. Sometimes only thanks, sometimes nothing at all. And yet, even in those times, the forge stays ready. You are not wealthy, you have no fine clothes, no horse of your own, no land beyond the garden patch behind your house. But you do not beg, you do not depend. You stand apart, not as lord nor serf, but something in between. A freeman, a maker, a man of heat and metal and trust. In the eyes of the villagers, you are essential, not just for the goods you produce, but for what you represent. Certainty. The anvil rings whether the harvest is good or bad. The forge glows even when the church bell is silent. You are, in your quiet way, a keeper of rhythm, a maintainer of tools, a presence that does not waver. Children watch you with wide eyes when they pass. Older men stop to talk, to share news, or to ask about an old blade long since dulled. The reeve, though proud, does not speak over you in public. Even the bailiff has waited for his turn. Your status is not written in the records. It is felt in nods, in requests, in respect. You chew the last of your bread slowly, feeling the weight of the morning begin to settle into your arms. The forge has cooled just enough. The heat now lives more in the walls than in the fire. You take a long sip from the clay cup at your side. The ale is flat, but wet. You wipe your mouth and rise, stretching the stiffness from your spine. There is still work to be done. Still iron to shape. Still tools to mend, but you do not chase riches. You chase readiness. You work not for gold, but for good. And in this quiet hour, with smoke curling toward the rafters and the hammer resting where you left it, you understand wealth is not always counted. Sometimes it is simply remembered. Lunch beside the ashes. The forge never goes cold, not truly. Even after your quiet meal, even as the sun begins its slow arc toward the western trees, the coals still smolder, dimmed but alive. You do not reignite them yet. There is time still before the heavier work resumes. You stand for a moment beside the hearth, letting your hands rest on the edge of the anvil. Its surface is warm from the morning's labor, and your fingertips trace old dents and grooves without thinking. Each one is a mark of time, a moment held, a task completed. You clean the workspace slowly, and ash is swept back into the pan. Tools are wiped, the bench is cleared of crumbs and filings. The act is meditative. Simple movements, small tasks. They calm the body more than rest. You step outside briefly. The sky is pale blue, veiled with soft clouds. The street beyond the forge is calmer now. The bustle of the morning market is gone. Only a few villagers pass, children skipping stones in the road, a woman with a basket of greens balanced on her hip, a shepherd leading his dog with a whistle and a glance. You breathe in the outside air. It smells of grass, sun-warmed dust, and faint cooking smoke drifting from nearby hearths. You remember your father standing just where you are now, rubbing his thick hands together as he squinted at the clouds. Good sky for tempering, he used to say. though you never knew if he meant it seriously. He spoke often, not of kings or wars, but of skies, seasons, and the way metal feels in your palm when it's nearly ready. You return inside. The coals have settled into a steady glow again. The next task is quiet, sharpening a set of shears for the weaver's wife. The blades are worn, the hinge loose. You open and close them slowly, listening to the faint scrape. You heat the joint gently, retighten the rivet, and draw each edge across your whetstone. The sound is soft, almost soothing, a rhythm of stone against steel, breath against silence. You test the blades on a strip of linen, clean, smooth, done. You set them aside and begin reshaping a plow hook. Not heavy work, just bending, flattening, smoothing edges so they won't catch soil or tear roots. The kind of task you could do blindfolded now. And yet, you take care. A careless edge today might mean a ruined harvest later, a snapped tool, a week lost in the fields. This is what your craft means. Not just shaping metal, but shaping the day-to-day lives of everyone around you. Your hands do not build castles, but they keep gates swinging, ovens latching, and tools returning from war with only scratches. A boy arrives with a lantern frame, its loop broken clean away. You recognize him, the thatcher's youngest. He's missing a front tooth and holds the metal carefully in both hands like it's something sacred. Pa says it was his grandfather's, the boy says, eyes wide. You nod. The fix is simple. A few taps with a light hammer, a hot rivet, a quench, but you handle it with ceremony, letting the boy watch as you fit it together again, strong and straight. When you hand it back, he beams. No coin changes hands, only a moment of trust. He runs off before you can ask his name. Later, you work on the sword the squire left earlier. You do not rush, you file the edge slowly, watching for light to catch on flaws. You tighten the guard, polish the fuller. When done, you set it gently on a cloth and leave it on the bench, ready for collection. The light in the forge shifts as the afternoon deepens. It filters through the shutters in long golden lines, catching dust motes and turning the smoke soft and amber. You sit again, just for a moment, letting the quiet settle. You drink a bit more ale, cooler now, slightly bitter. The clay cup rests in your palm like a stone warmed by the sun. You think not of tasks unfinished, but of moments stored. Your father's voice, the feel of your first successful blade, the way your mother used to fold linen with her thumbs pressed just so, the sound of church bells ringing in the fog. These memories do not distract you. They live alongside the work, in the grain of your bench, the rustle of shavings, the notch in your boot heel from when you dropped a chisel 2 winters ago. Outside, the shadows begin to stretch. You rise slowly, brush ash from your knees, and stoke the fire once more. There is still work to be done, but there is time, always the time, when the forge breathes gently and your hands are sure. Afternoon of fire and quiet talk. Gone is the urgency of morning heat, the white-hot roar of work at its peak. In its place, a deeper, gentler breath, the kind of warmth that seeps into bones rather than singes skin. The forge at this hour feels less like a hearth and more like a memory, glowing softly, steady as dusk. You return to the bench and lift a plow collar from the hook where it's cooled. It needs trimming, smoothing, and a final twist of the base so it fits flush against the wooden shaft it will be nailed to. Your hands find the groove easily, adjusting without thought. There's no need to rush. The sun is slower now. So are you. Footsteps crunch outside, measured, deliberate. The door creaks and a familiar figure enters. The Reeves' cousin, a quiet man with clever eyes. He says nothing at first, just places a broken gate catch on the bench. It's rusted, bent beyond simple repair. You examine it in silence, then look up. Too thin to reshape, you say. I'll make another. He nods. Reeves says the cattle push through again. You both chuckle, but it's low, shared in breath rather than voice. As you work, he stays beside the door, arms crossed, eyes following the hammer's arc. He doesn't speak often. That's why you don't mind his company. The silence between you is easy. When he does speak, it's never of gossip or coin, but of fences, weather, the price of nails in market towns 2 days away. You ever think about making hinges for the chapel? He asks eventually. You glance up. Not asked. He shrugs. Just thinking. The ones they have now grown like a drunkard on frost. You nod once. If they ask, I'll see to it. He leaves a few coins and a strip of cloth, dyed deep red, likely from his wife's loom. Wrap your tools in that, keeps the grit out. Then he's gone. You continue shaping the new catch, flattening the curl and piercing the base. The metal sings, quieter now like a lullaby. The anvil rings, but not sharply. It murmurs. Not long after, a priest visits, old, slight, with fingers curled from age. He carries a small brass censer in need of repair. Its chain has snapped, and the dome sits crooked. You lift it gently, noting the tarnish, the delicate filigree bent near the base. It was my master's, he says softly. Brought from York, decades ago. I would be grateful. You nod. No more words needed. While the metal warms, the priest sits beside the window, murmuring a prayer, not aloud, not directed at you. Just words released into the room, like smoke drifting upward without a destination. You straighten the censer's neck, reforge the loop for its chain, and polish the base lightly. The brass, reluctant at first, begins to shine again. When you hand it back, the priest smiles with more eyes than mouth. He presses a small bundle into your palm. Dried rosemary, a few cloves, and a folded square of linen. For your rest, he says. Then he leaves, robes brushing ash. You sit for a moment after that. Let the work pause. The forge continues to glow, pulsing gently like a heart at peace. Outside, shadows begin to climb the thatch roofs. The village quiets further. Children now called indoors. Chickens settling into coops. The clang of a bucket against the wellstone echoing faintly across lanes. Another visitor comes. A girl this time, perhaps 12, with wild curls and a determined look. She carries a bent cooking hook. My mother says you might fix it, she says, holding it out. If it's not too much. You smile, just slightly. Not too much. You place it on the anvil, heat it only slightly. It doesn't need reshaping, just a careful bend and a smoothing pass. The metal obliges, softening just enough beneath your hands. You return it warm. She offers 2 hen's eggs wrapped in cloth. Then, before leaving, she adds, she says thank you for the rake last spring and the pot chain the year before. You nod, but she's already gone. You glance around the forge. The light is gold now, thick and slanted, filtering through smoke and wood dust. The walls, streaked with soot, seem to soften. Even the anvil appears gentler in the hush of dusk. You place the day's last items into their places. Hinges to be collected tomorrow. Shears wrapped in cloth. The priest's bundle set by the window. The forge is still warm. The work is not finished. But the day, in its way, begins to close. Outside, a lone bell sounds in the chapel tower, marking the coming of evening prayers. Inside, you sit once more, not from weariness, but from habit. Reflection. The afternoon has passed, not in noise, but in small voices, in requests gently spoken, in the steady breath of fire, the tap of hammer, the shared weight of making and mending. And as the shadows stretch longer, you feel no hurry. The forge is slower now, but it is not sleeping yet. Cooling iron and evening smoke. The sun dips behind the trees now, and the forge begins to cool. Not quickly, not with haste, but with dignity. The coals, once white and fierce, have darkened to a soft red. Their light pulses slowly, like a lantern behind fogged glass. The heat remains, yes, but it no longer climbs. It lingers. You stand from your stool, stretch gently, and step toward the hearth. With practiced ease, you lift the bellows from its notch, unhook the leather folds, and lay it carefully against the wall. The forge does not need breath anymore, not tonight. It exhales on its own now. soft wisps of smoke curling upward, like threads from a tapestry unraveling. You take the ash scoop in one hand, drawing it gently through the cooled edges of the fire pit. Not through, just the outer fringe. Some warmth must be saved for the morning, like an ember carried in the corner of one's mind. Enough to begin again. One by one, you return the tools to their places. The tongs are hung in order, longest to shortest, like soldiers lined up for evening inspection. The hammers rest on their hooks, their heads gleaming faintly with oil, and the memory of strikes made and forms shaped. You wipe each one gently, not to clean away the work, but to remind the metal that it is valued, even at rest. The anvil, center of your craft, is rubbed with a soft cloth, soaked in linseed oil. It drinks the oil slowly, like old wood taking in the sun. You run your hand along its flank, the way one might stroke a loyal beast at the end of the day. It has served well. It will again. Outside, the village shifts towards stillness. Distant laughter fades. The lowing of cattle quiets. The last carts creak past, their wheels sluggish on packed dirt. The scent of supper floats through the open window. Onions, perhaps, or porridge thickening in clay pots. Smoke from chimneys rises in slender curls, barely moving in the windless dusk. Inside, the forge holds a different smell. Charcoal, faint iron, worn leather. It is the scent of labor, but not of exhaustion. The scent of something well done. You turn to the water trough. Its surface is calm now, having quenched its last iron for the day. A few ripples linger from the final blade cooled. You skim your fingers across it. The water's warm, edged with soot. It smells faintly of earth. You lift the small cloth bundle left by the priest, the rosemary and cloves, and set it on the shelf above the fire. It will dry there overnight, and tomorrow you will hang it beside the door. A charm, perhaps, or just a scent to carry the forge through winter. A final check of the bench. Nothing left undone. No sparks hiding in the coals. No edges unsharpened. You lift the leather apron from your chest, fold it carefully, and hang it on the nail near the window. The cloth beneath is damp with sweat, but the air cools it quickly. The evening breeze has found its way in, brushing the back of your neck like a blessing. You take a final sip from the clay cup. The ale is flat, nearly tasteless now. But it's familiar, and that, at this hour, is enough. You sit once more, not to rest, not to plan, but simply to be. Your hands rest in your lap, stained faintly with ash. Your boots are dusted with filings. Your chest rises and falls, slow and steady. Around you, the forge glows, not with fire now, but with memory. Its heat stored in stones. Its breath held in walls. Its song finished, but not forgotten. And as you listen to the silence, kind of silence that only follows honest work, you feel something settle inside you. Not pride, not joy. Something quieter. Satisfaction, perhaps. Or the knowledge that in this place, with these tools, on this day, you made what was broken whole again. You bent metal to will, mended what was weary, and gave shape to use. And now, as the sky darkens to blue, as stars begin to appear one by one, as the village folds itself into sleep, you rise. You step outside. The air is cool, the ground soft with dew. You close the door behind you, not with force, not with a lock, but with care. The forge, though empty, does not feel abandoned. It feels complete. Tomorrow the fire will return, but tonight it dreams just as you will. A man of iron, not of title. The night air is cooler now. The forge sleeps. Its breath, once fierce and glowing, has faded to a gentle warmth nestled in stone and ash. Outside, the village has gone quiet. No carts, no laughter, only the soft hiss of distant hearths and the chirp of crickets tucked into hedgerows. A single lamp flickers in a high window, and beyond that, only stars remain. You move slowly through your workshop, making one final round. Not because anything remains to be done, but because care is a habit that outlives necessity. You touch each tool in passing, just a graze of your fingers. Tongs, hammers, files, they hang motionless like resting limbs, but their presence feels alive. Not objects, but witnesses. You wipe your hands on the cloth near the door, though they are already clean. You lift your cup, empty now, and set it on the ledge by the window. Tomorrow it will be filled again, not with anything grand, but with what is needed. You unlatch the side door and step outside. Gravel shifts beneath your boots. Above, the sky is dark velvet, the moon a thin coin. A breeze stirs your tunic. You walk past the forge wall, around the small garden now heavy with summer beans, and toward your cottage. Its shutters are closed. A curl of smoke slips from the chimney. Home, you enter quietly. The warmth inside is not from fire, but from familiarity. A wool blanket waits folded on the bench. A candle guttering on the table gives off its final flickers. You do not need light now. Your bed creaks gently beneath your weight. The mattress is simple, straw, wool, stitched linen. No finery. But it holds your shape. It knows your aches. It welcomes you not with luxury, but with memory. You lie down. Your eyes do not close yet. They trace the beams above. Wood darkened by age and smoke, placed there by hands long gone. You know each knot in those beams, each line of grain. They have seen winters pass and children grow, storms beat, and sunlight return. Like you, they have stayed. There are no titles on your wall, no heraldry, no plaques, just tools, scraps of leather, a bent hinge someone left long ago. A belt hook is waiting for repair. A life measured not by honors, but by usefulness. You are not nobility. You wear no crest. You speak in no court. But the village knows your name. They know the way your forge smells in the morning. They know the sound of your anvil ringing before the sun clears the trees. They know your gait in the lane, the rhythm of your hammer, the steady light from your window, long after others have gone to sleep. You are part of the landscape, as rooted as the oak near the well, as constant as the chapel bell. No one says your name with ceremony, but it is said with trust. When a tool breaks, when a latch fails, when iron must be made right, they come to you. And when their coin runs thin, they still come. And you still work. This is not charity, it is bound, woven thread by thread over seasons and shared silences, a quiet pact between your hands and their lives. You remember the children's faces pressed to your workshop window, wide-eyed at the dance of sparks. You remember the old woman who brought you lavender for your sweat-slicked brow, the Reeves cousin, who left nails when he had no coin, the way the priest bowed, not as a man above, but as a man beside. You remember laughter shared with the cartwright, the pride in a boy's eyes when you fixed his father's lantern, the way a farmer held your hand a moment longer when you returned his repaired plow, knowing the harvest would come now. These are not written things. They are not sealed with wax or signed in ink, but they are real. They are what you built. Not just tools, not just hinges and horseshoes and hooks, but faith. The world beyond your village is louder, more gilded, filled with men who wield power and never touch the earth. They dine by candlelight and ride on bridled steeds. They speak of war and wine, of glory and coin. Let them. You shape things that last. Things that creak open the doors of homes, that pulls wagons through frost, those boil kettles that harvest grain. You make no speech, yet your work speaks for you, with every gate that swings true and every sword that does not fail in hand. And in this you have more than a title. You have meaning. The pillow beneath your head is thin. The roof above you groans in the wind. But you sleep deeply, not because the world is easy, but because your place in it is certain. You are not a man of privilege. You are not a name etched in stone. But you are remembered in the iron you shaped, the doors you mended, the warmth you gave through cold seasons. And tomorrow, when the cock crows and mist veils the roofs again, when your hands flex before they meet the day, you will rise, not because you must, but because the fire waits. And so does the work, and so do they. And so, the day has ended. The forge is quiet now, the coals have dimmed. The blacksmith has folded his apron, set down his tools, and laid his tired body to rest. He holds no title, wears no crown, but every gate that swings, every blade that cuts, every hinge that holds, bears the silent mark of his hand. His life is not written in scrolls or stone, but in the warmth of things made useful. And now, like the forge, he dreams. Let that stillness be yours too. Let your breath deepen. Let your thoughts grow softer. Whatever weight you carried today, let it cool like iron and sand. You are safe now. The world is quiet, and in this quiet may you find rest, sleep well, and dream of firelight, iron, and peace.